Hi everyone and welcome. Today I'm going to show you all the books that I've acquired since my last book haul, which was back in May, if I'm not mistaken. Now I actually have more books here to show you next to me than I was expecting, because even though I wasn't buying as much as I normally do, I still acquired some books left and right over the last couple of months, and then I also was gifted some beautiful gifts for my birthday, which was at the end of June. So since I do have 3 small piles here next to me, without further ado, let's just get into the books. And the first book that I have here is already a birthday present that I got from my husband, and that is For the Throne by Hannah Witten. This is the conclusion of a duology called the Wilderwood duology, and I really enjoyed the first book, which was For the Wolf. That was a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and this one is a Sleeping Beauty retelling, I think. And I think that this one focuses on the main character of the first book's sister. Now, I haven't read this one yet, but I do hope to read it soon because a conclusion is one that I should prioritize. Then next up I have a book that I actually bought last week, and this was because of a recommendation that I had on the comments of my fairy tale recommendations video, which I will link in the cards right here, and that is The King of Elfland's Daughter by Lord Dunsany. This one was recommended to me by Rob, which I will link his channel in the description box down below. And this was actually a fairy tale that has been on my radar for the longest time, but I kind of forgot about it because the copies were extremely expensive when I first saw it. So when Ralph mentioned it again, I looked it up, I saw that it was on my wish list and that now it was on sale. So of course I snatched it up, and I do think that this is one that I will love, because here we follow a mortal man and a fairy who fall in love, they get married, and this is the story of what happens afterwards. I think this is going to be a little bit tragic and emotional, and that's right up my alley, so I'm very excited for this short fairy tale. As you guys know, I absolutely love fairy tales. For my birthday, I also received some gifts from my good friends Steve and Brandy over at Steve Talks Books, and I just know that if they send me books, I need to read them as soon as possible because they know my taste very well. Now, unfortunately, I haven't gotten to any of these, but I do plan to very soon. The first book that I have here, I think Brandy had something to do with this pick, because that is Cashil's Sign by Jacqueline Carey. Now, this is a book further along in the Cashil Legacy trilogy, or series I should say, because it's a total of 9 books, and I'm currently reading it. So now I have the first 6 books in my hand. This one is a little bit later, it's part of the second trilogy, but I just know that I'm going to love these. I've read the first 2 in the original trilogy, absolutely love them, so now I know what to do next, and that is to read all of these tomes. Steve, of course, being a grimdark self-publishing fan, he sent me 2 self-publishing novels. The first one is A Drowned Kingdom by P.L. Stewart. Now, first of all, I had the pleasure of talking to P.L. Stewart on one of the Friday conversations over at Steve's channel, and he is a wonderful human being, so I do want to give a try to his novel very soon. This is the first one in a trilogy, if I'm not mistaken, and it's a grimdark novel, of course, in which we follow the fall of Atlantis, or it's at least inspired by that. I do think that that's very cool because it's a story that everybody knows, but it's not used a lot in fantasy, and I wonder why. So this, again, is definitely one that I will have to try soon. I feel like it's more of a summer read, but at the same time, I don't want to wait almost a year, so maybe I should just give it a try in winter. Next up, one of Steve's favorites, and that is Gunmetal Gods by Zamil Akhtar. This is also the first one in a trilogy, and this one talks about a holy war. Now, if you know me, you know that I absolutely adore this. Whenever there is religion and then some kind of military strategy combined to it, I absolutely adore that. So all of these books I want to get to as soon as possible, but this is definitely one that is very high on my radar, because like I said, if Steve thinks that I'm going to like something, that's usually true. He knows my taste pretty well and he can predict if I'm going to love it. So these 3 I need to pick up. Then I bought myself a book. And if you've seen my fall TBR video, you might recognize the title, because in that video I talk about a 16 book. A book that I really wanted to read, but I didn't own already. Well, surprise, surprise, I bought it for myself. And that is The Witch and the Tsar by Alessia Gilmore. Now, this is a Russian folklore retelling. I think I'm going to love it. I have very high expectations for this new release, because I loved the Winter Night trilogy by Catherine Arden. I also think that this is a standalone, if I'm not mistaken, so that's just perfect. And I do think that I'm going to read this one in October. So if you're looking for a review, that one is going to happen very soon. And then a couple of months ago, I also bought some sci-fi. I'm still very, very proud of myself that I didn't buy the first book in the Expanse series, because that's a 10-book long series and I barely read any sci-fi, but instead I went with A Memory Called Empire by Arkady Martin, which is the first book in a sci-fi duology. This is a smart choice for me, because I still haven't picked it up, but I do want to very soon, because I think that this is going to be perfect, since there's a lot of political intrigue. And that's something that I just enjoy in books in general, so sci-fi with political intrigue, I think I'm going to love it. Other than that, I don't really know a lot about this one. And since we are on the sci-fi train now, let's just continue that route. Because even though I haven't acquired a lot of sci-fi over the last couple of months, I have bought a couple. Let's start with Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451. Now, I don't know a lot about this tiny book, but I do know that this is a dystopian classic that deals with the burning of books. Now, if you don't know, one of my goals for 2022 was to read more classics. I read 2 and then the reading slump happened, but this was going to be my 3rd one. And since it's pretty short, I hope that I can still fit it in somewhere in the next couple of months. Even though it wasn't on my fall TBR, I hope that I can squeeze it in. It's 200 pages, it should be doable. Then another birthday gift. Now, this was gifted to me by my brother, who didn't know that I already had a copy of this book, but since it's my favorite sci-fi book ever, I'm not really mad that I have 2 copies. That's of course Dune by Frank Herbert. Now, I read this one a couple of years ago. I have a reading vlog for that one that I will link in the cards up above, but I haven't really continued this series. And I do know that there are probably 9 books or even more in the series. I am committed to read the first 4. Because I think that that is one arc. So, of course, I had to buy the second book myself, and that is Dune Messiah. This is a tiny book compared to the first one. This is also one that I have been saying that I was going to read for years at this point. I think after I finished Dune, I said that I was going to read this one, but now I finally own a copy. And it's shorter than I would expect. It's, again, under 300 pages. So, for somebody who doesn't read a lot of sci-fi, this is a good one to have, I suppose. Then I also want to mention that I was gifted these beautiful A Song of Ice and Fire editions. These are the Folio Society editions by my husband for my birthday. So the second and the third one, I was already gifted the first one, I think, for Christmas. And I'm so happy that I have them. I'm not going to put them off the shelves to show you because you know what they look like and they're absolutely massive. So I don't want to do that. But I'm very excited to be reading from those editions when I am co-hosting the A Song of Ice and Fire read-along in 2023 together with some amazing booktubers. So yes, very much looking forward to that. I'm very happy that I have these beautiful editions on the shelves. Now I only need the 4th one, if I'm not mistaken, because unfortunately the 5th one, they don't have a Folio Society edition for that one yet, but I'm sure that that's going to come. And then I was also gifted some hardcover copies by a couple of friends of mine for my birthday. I was going to read both of these over the summer. It didn't happen, but I still plan to read them. The first one is Kingdom of Copper by S.A. Chakraborty. This is the second book in the Davenport trilogy, the trilogy that I was supposed to complete over summer. I did read a couple of chapters of City of Brass, which is the first book. It's faster paced than I'm used to, but so far I was really enjoying it. This is a desert-based fantasy. We have djinns, we have a pickpocketing thief, if I'm not mistaken. So yes, one that I have high hopes for. And then I also received the sequel of a book that I absolutely enjoyed. This is The Bone Shard Emperor, the sequel to The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart. This is a trilogy. I think that the 3rd book is coming out in 2023, but I think halfway through the year, if I'm not mistaken. The first one, The Bone Shard Daughter, I have a spoiler-free review for. This was a 10 out of 10 for me. I was not expecting to love it, but I absolutely did. So of course, the second book is one that I should be reading soon, but this has a very summery vibe to it. So at the soonest, I think I will pick it up in spring, and then I might be ready for the release of the 3rd and final book. So that would be a good choice, I think. Now, if we're talking about gifts that I've received from friends and all of you guys, I cannot not talk about Safina. Now, in my last book haul, I showed you that she gifted me these Soldier Sun trilogies. You can see them right here. And that I absolutely adore them because they are the UK paperbacks. And I mentioned in that video that I was going to buy the UK paperbacks of the entire realm of the Elden series over time. So that would be nice that those match. Now, over the last couple of months, Safina has not just gifted me the Farseer trilogy in those UK paperbacks, the Lifeship Traders trilogy, the Tawny Man trilogy, but also the entire Rainwild Chronicles. So these are absolutely beautiful. The first one is Dragon Keeper, the second one is Dragon Haven, then we have City of Dragons, and then the book that I am reading at the moment, Blood of Dragons. This is such a beautiful collection that I now own. So Safina, of course, you know that these are very well appreciated, but again, thank you so much to have almost a 16-book long series and all of them matched together. This is, yes, publishers, look at this and please do something similar for other very long series. Make them consistent. This looks beautiful on my shelves, so thank you again. Then we have a book that I have bought for myself because I really want to read it before the end of 2022. And that is The Liar's Knot. This is the second book in the Rook and Rose trilogy. I actually read the first one, The Mask of Mirrors, in December of last year, if I'm not mistaken, and I really enjoyed it. This has a lot of political intrigue, a lot of backstabbing, a lot of mystery. You have a Zorro type character, and it's set in a Venetian setting. Now, because of that, it would be more suited to read in summer, but I read the first one in winter. I want to read the second one as soon as possible, so I'm just going to give it a try and hopefully I can pick it up before the end of this year. But anyway, highly recommend that series, and I do think that the third one is almost out, so you do not have an excuse to not pick up the first book. Next up, another book that I bought for myself, and that is The Trouble with Peace by Joe Abercrombie. I actually recently acquired this one because I am going to read the final trilogy, the Age of Madness trilogy, in October, November, December. And this is actually really long. That's being hosted on my channel. We will have live shows together with Steve and Jose. And this is the second book in that Age of Madness trilogy. So I'm just slowly collecting them. This one was all of a sudden pretty cheap on Amazon, so I decided to just grab it because I am going to read it anyway. Why not grab it when it is on sale? I have very high expectations for this one because a lot of Joe Abercrombie fans has told me that this is actually the best trilogy out of the two, and I really enjoyed the First Law trilogy already. So yes, one that I will be reading very soon, and then by the end of the year I will have finished the entire First Law universe. That's a strange thing to think about because I have been reading these books for such a long time at this point. Then I also bought Son of the Storm by Sui Davies Okumbowa. This is the first one in a trilogy. It's called The Nameless Republic. Now, unfortunately, I don't think that the second one is already out or even has a publication date, but by the speed of which I finish series, that shouldn't be a problem. I think that the author is going to be faster than me, unless the author is named George R.R. Martin. This is an African-inspired fantasy, and to be honest, that's the main reason why I picked it up. But in this one, we follow a scholar who is wanting to discover some mysteries, and everybody else says that they don't exist, that he doesn't really need to dive into the history of the Empire, but he does so anyway, and he finds forbidden magic that is not supposed to exist, and then he decides to look further into it. And it says at the end that this is going to threaten to destroy the Empire, which is something that I always enjoy, and I love reading about scholars. So yes, one that at the time that I picked it up, I said, I'm going to read this as soon as possible, and a couple of months have passed since then. But still, happy to have it, and when the second one gets announced, I'm going to read it for sure, and otherwise, I'm just going to read it whenever the mood strikes me, I suppose. So, definitely more books than I thought I had acquired over these last couple of months. Please let me know what you think of my picks and which ones I should prioritize, and also let me know if you bought or went to the library recently and which books you have acquired that way. If you want to see some more book hauls are always nice to watch. You can watch my last one right here. Other than that, I do hope that you enjoyed this video and see you next time. Bye!